Uh, yeah, it's beautiful in a lot of ways, which I wanted to leave proper time to go through. So we'll start it today. We'll see how far we get. Either we'll spend all of next week on it or just a little bit of it, but we will make it happen. So, I always like to do a little bit of background on Ovadia. Ovadia, the background is both easy and complicated. It's easy because we get to say that basically there's a whole litany of possibilities of who this guy is and when he lived, and therefore what he's prophesying about. Well, that, or rather, what event. Okay, so Ovadia, the name means a servant of God. Um, there are a few Ovadias named in the Tanakh. For example, if you happen to remember the name of the prophet who hides those 100, I think, prophets in a cave so that Izebel can't find them and kill them. His name is Ovadia. There are a couple others referenced. So either this Ovadia is one of those, or he's someone else entirely. And as part of that, perhaps Ovadia was just, not a given name, but rather just a name, a term to refer to people who were, servants of God, right? A good people. So it's possible it wasn't really even his name altogether. Micha is kind of similar in that vague names that are godlike, and so therefore it could just be totally generic, I guess is the word I'm looking for. So the possibilities and what we'll see inside for when Ovadia lived, there's definitely some desire to see Ovadia as prophesying after the destruction of.
Hi, I couldn't tell if you were open.
Oh, I'll just meet her real fast. So that one option is that it is after the destruction of the Second Temple, so 586. So that we would be fast forwarding from, well, I guess Yonah, we don't know when it's dated. Yoel, we don't know when it's dated. But before that, Amos and Hosea, so who are in when the Northern Kingdom is still existing. So one possibility is we're fast forwarding 150 years or so. Another option is that this is actually during somewhat, I guess, contemporary of Amos and Hosea back in the 700s BCE, and that, yeah, and therefore that's connected to different historical events, and then kind of everything in between. So we really don't know. There's evidence to support each of those, of course, and nothing of them is definitive. So that's the easy and hard part of situating Ovadia, basically. Um, how relevant all of that
Mara,
history? Yes, hi.
does anybody have the opinion that it's the same Ovadia that met Elijah on his way? Uh,
Yes. Yes, there is that opinion also, which would make this even earlier, right? That would go back to like the 800s BCE. Yeah. And I guess one of the reasons I like the book is because in many ways it's timeless, right? But of course, timelessness then makes it more complicated to assess when it's coming from. So once again, how much any of that matters, I don't know. It is one of the things that makes Ovadia unique is that it is one chapter long, as I said. Yet the literature in this book that is on three books altogether, the one I just held up to the camera, I'm just counting the pages. Um, 100, no, excuse me, that's a lie. 44 pages of this book are devoted to a 21 verse chat books, right? So I'm putting a bookmark here because there's lots to potentially reference as we go along. And then I have the Mosada of Cook edition also just for general commentary, more specifically on the words, and hopefully we have other books with us as well. Of course, it's hard to find Ovadia when it's one chapter long. Very easy to miss it. Now I feel silly. I should have put a bookmark in here in advance. We don't want me. All right. Whatever. I'm okay. I'm not gonna make you guys sit through all of this now. So let's get started. I'm gonna share my screen. Okay. Oops. All right. No, what just happened. Oh, Ovadia's not in this one. It must have been tucked in the very end of the other one I had. My bad. That's why I couldn't find it. Okay. So here we go. I'm so sorry. I have so many false starts right now. I'm just resizing something so I can see everyone. All right. So we open Chazon Ovadia. So here's the prophecy of Ovadia. Komar Hashem Elokim Edom. So we're directing this right up against Edom, right? Um, Edom, of course, is, I didn't make, I'm assuming that like we're okay talking about all the massive backgrounds of Edom and Esav, et cetera, without looking in the text. We could have made enormous source sheets for this just to prepare. But we'll just speak about it outside. Hopefully folks remember, a decent amount of it. So this now immediately, once you see Edom, you know that we're going all the way back to the tortured relationship between Yaakov and his twin brother Esav, right? Twins who occupy the same womb, and yet while they are already in the womb, are at odds with each other, and really, their time in the womb foreshadows that they will not really ever be capable of occupying the same space as children or young men, right? They have literal differences. Yaakov's an Ish Tam Yoshev Ohalim, simple guy who just wants to stay home, whereas Esav is out in the fields. So they are children of the same parents, but not in the same physical space, really. We see that when they do come and meet in the same space, right? When Esav comes home from being out in the field, that's when conflict arises. That's when Yaakov enacts the plan with the stew, of course, to steal the birthright from Esav, right? The birthright is separate from the blessing. The birthright is the double portion that the eldest child, or eldest son, I should say, gets. That's material wealth, whereas the blessing is, a blessing for prosperity, etc. And so then, of course, when Esav goes out to the fields, that's when Yaakov, with Rivka's devising, steals the blessing, right? So, this very sad, painful relationship that, isn't, I think we want to think of of it as one of anger, but really I think it's one of deep pain, especially for Esav, who wails upon realizing that his brother has stolen the blessing from him. And then, says, well, as soon as my father dies, I'm going to kill him. So Yaakov has, run away. And then when they finally reunite, when Yaakov's coming back to Israel, right, with Rachel and Leah and all their kids, well, he's got to figure out how to cross through Seir, which is Esav's territory. And so he has to send those messages ahead. And then Esav comes out to greet him with 400 men. And of course, Yaakov interprets that as a violent sign and panics and has to split up his kids and all of that and wrestles with the angel, what many people say is Esav's angel, and ultimately they have that, I like to think, beautiful reunion, right, where they, fall on each other and cry. And of course, some of our rabbis say that it was a genuine crying, and other rabbis say no, it wasn't. There's the midrash that Yaakov's neck turned to marble because Esav's teeth were fangs and wanted to bite him, and all those things. And it ultimately concludes with Esav saying, "Hey, let me help you. Come visit, like come with us. I'll help you schlep all your stuff." And Yaakov says, "No, no, no. We're gonna just drag you down. You go ahead. We'll meet you there." And then goes off to Sukkot instead of Seir and never shows up. Right, and that's the end of that relationship as we know it. They do both come home to bury Yitzchak, their father, when he dies, but that's it, right? So that's why I call it a painful, tortured story, because it's really about two brothers who they just exist on such different planes. Don't trust each other. Certainly, Yaakov doesn't trust Esav, and then have this really sad ending where, Yaakov basically said he'll meet you there and then never shows up. And it totally carries through to their children. When Bnei Israel are crossing through the Midbar to get to Israel, they reach out to Edom, right, who are Esau's descendants, living in that area. It's a territory, south of Israel, and say, hey, can we cross through? Don't worry, we won't touch anything. We won't, we'll pay you for any food we eat or whatever. And the Edomites come out against them with the sword, right? And so they can't go through. And that is the Torah's that's their relationship in the Torah, and it's really not any better in Tanakh. And so, um, again, going back to which historical period or event this is referencing, um, perhaps was there an early alliance between Israel and Edom that was violated? Perhaps is this about the fact that when the Babylonians conquered Jerusalem, the Edomites just kind of jumped in, right? They sort of seized the moment and jumped in also and stole things and pillaged the people. We don't know, but I would argue that a theme of this is pain. So now that I've given that like very, very long intro, let's look at the actual text more beyond that first little intro. So, Le'edom Shmu'a Shamanu Me'it Hashem V'tzir Bagoyim Shulach Kumu V'nakuma Alea Le'milchama. All right, we've received tidings from God, and an envoy has been sent out amongst the nations. Up, let us rise up against her for battle. Thus said the sovereign God concerning Edom. All right, that was the JPS clearly rearranges the order of that pasuk in the English translation. Does anyone have a translation that's particularly different than that one? No. Okay, great. All right, let's get to the meat of it. Hine katon nataticha bagoyim, bazui ata me'od. This sounds like a schoolyard insult, right? I will make you least among the nations. Katon nataticha, right? When I say katon, like it just literally means little, like you're going to be the littlest one, and you'll be the most despised. Bazui, does anyone have that translated differently? I don't love despised.
Sorry,
Okay. What?
I have despised also.
You
Sorry.
do? Hmm,
Yeah.
Mine is
interesting.
also despised.
Really?
Hmm.
Oh, I feel like I'm using on it's more of there's like a more of a shameful
Yeah.
element to that as well. That's why I thought the translation was off. But that's interesting. Okay. All right, but again, this could be a schoolyard insult. The language is very straightforward, right? I'm going to make you small and like the laughing stock almost in a way. All right. Zedon libcha hishiecha shochni bechagvei sela merom shivto omer belibo mi yorideni aretz. Your arrogant heart has seduced you, you who dwell in clefts of the rock in your lofty abode. You think in your heart, who can pull me down to earth? We can do a couple more. Im tagbiha kanesher ve'im ben kochavim sim kinecha misham oridcha ne'um Hashem. Should you nest as high as the eagle? Should your, I don't know what this word, eyrie be lodged among the stars? Even from there, I will pull you down, declares God.
The
So,
area is the eagle's nest. And I
thank
have
you.
the wickedness of the heart, not the arrogance of the heart.
Yeah, Zedon. I know. I don't know why they said arrogant. You have wickedness. Yeah, that's better, I think. Hmm. Right. Um, so no matter, how high you are, yes, I'm gonna pull you down. Also, in some ways, I mean, that reminds me more of like a children's book, right? Like there's the Eric Carle book about trying to get the moon, right? But no matter how high you go, God's gonna pull you down. I always think it's telling when the language and the ideas are simple. Obviously simple, not meaning unserious, but there's something, it's like almost more powerful that way. All right, wherever you are, I'm gonna pull you down. Im ganavim ba'ulecha, im shodedei laila, ich nidmeta, halo yignevu dayam, im botzrim ba'u lach, halo yashiru olelot. If thieves were to come to you, Marauders by night. They would steal no more than they needed. If vintagers came to you, they would surely leave some gleanings. How
Ruth, in the
utter
previous stanza, I think the other translation is much more poetic, where it says, if you will soar like an eagle, and if you will place your nest among
Oh,
the stars.
oh, yeah, that's nice. Soar like an eagle. That is nice. I do like that a lot more. Hmm. Okay. Thank you. Yeah.
For some reason,
Um,
I got words in here that I haven't had a chance to go back and forth, but it talks about them being silent. Is that missing in the text in Hebrew? And that was just what this translation was.
where silence?
Um, because Pasuk 5, right? Are we on 5?
Yeah.
Okay, so I have if you did the thieves come upon you? Did the plunders of the night? How were you silent? And I don't. There's nothing in there about being silent, or is
Oh, echnid meta, right? So that's the court that could mean silent, right? How
I've
did
got how were you cut off?
right? So they moved here. JPS moved echnid meta down to the end of the pasuk. How utterly you are destroyed. So they understood it not as silence but as destruction. How? So can you read me the whole pasuk as you have it?
um this says, did thieves come upon you? Did plunderers of the night? How were you silent? Will they not steal till they have enough? Um,
Hmm.
then if the vintners come upon you, would they not leave over some gleaning grapes?
Do you have any comments on there explaining like what it intends with that?
Okay. How were you silent? Why were you sleeping soundly and still until they stole all that they desired? Radak explains, how were you cut off? It is customary for thieves to steal until they have enough, as much as they can carry, and then leave over the rest. And the thing with the vintners and the grapes, would the vintners not leave over some gleaning grapes? But these will not leave you anything. They will search and reveal and seek until you all seek out all your hidden things. That's from Rashi. If
Hmm.
plunderers come upon you by day, like the vintagers who gather the grapes of the vineyard, and they return time after time to gather the grapes, it's still impossible that they should not leave over any gleaning grapes that are not visible because of their small size and they're hidden under the leaves of the vine. But you, how were you searched out that the plunderers left you nothing, not even the hidden things?
Yeah. Okay. I'm looking also this book also has a translation a lot closer to you. Yeah.
It seems more literal, but
Yeah.
they're also implying that there's these motives of taking absolutely everything.
Yeah. Um,
Was one of the destructions like that? I know the Romans like burnt cities and salted the earth so that there'd be nothing left. This sounds like it would be vindictive. Like we're taking every single grape so you won't even have any way of, making seeds to plant
mm-hmm.
again.
Mm-hmm. Right. It's interesting. I mean, here this guy says is Rabbi Beasley, the plundering mocks the Edomites' feeling of security. Right. And additionally, Ovadia uses these images to contrast human behavior with God's upcoming punishment. Right. So that like, I guess even when you think you're going to have a normal thing coming to you, but it's going to be so much worse. He also, I should have mentioned, points out that the height thing, that the way that Edom's territory was built and like the geography or whatnot, they actually were kind of in an elevated place. And so, it makes sense that there's language of elevation that's used as well. Yeah, it's yeah. All right. I think ultimately we're saying that it's saying that like basically if normal thieves stole from you, you would at least have something left. But the way that you're going to be destroyed, there's going to be nothing, right? Which is emphasized in 6, which is a lot shorter. Ech pesu Esav niv'u mitzfunav. How thoroughly rifled is Esav, how ransacked his hordes. All right. Oops. Don't do this to me. Point. my X out of this. Do you also have that as a translation? Ech nichbesu Esav nivuv mitzap, that thoroughly rifled is Esav?
Yep.
You do? Yeah. It's so interesting. How did he have it here? One sec.
But I've got a
Uh,
note that it could be how was Esav searched and his hoards ransacked.
Yeah, here he has yet how is Aesop and ransacked his hidden treasures laid bare. Okay.
And my translation is how Esau was searched out, how his hidden things were revealed.
Mm,
Nivu is revealed.
Oh, interesting. Uh-huh. Okay. Now, going back to like why I find this book so powerful, right? One of them is here. How did Esav come to be here, right? We're talking about Edom, right? Um, a nation that unquestionably these are the descendants of Esav, but who are we talking to, right? Are we talking to Edom as a nation in whatever century this is about something they did then, right? Or are we also projecting now back onto Esav and on that original relationship? Certainly, it's almost like I guess what I'm saying is this almost like an unconscious or subconscious thing that we're doing, switching Esav and Edom, or it's intentional, but either way we're very clearly going all the way back now to Esav and not just leaving it as the descendants. Um, yeah, all right. So, Ad Hagvul, Shilechucha, Kol Anshe Britecha, Hishiucha, Yachlu Lecha, Anshe Shlomecha, Lachmecha, Yasimu Mazor, Tachtecha, Ein Tvuna Bo. All your allies turned you back at the frontier. Your own confederates have duped and overcome you. Those who ate your bread have planted snares under you. He is bereft of understanding. Random little thing at the end of it. So yes, we are still talking about, we're looking at Esav and saying, or Edom and saying, here are all the ways the people have abandoned you. Bereft of awareness. Yeah, all right.
So I have escorted you to the borders, which is exactly the opposite of turned you back to the frontier.
Uh-huh. Ad Gvul Oh, interesting. Escorted you to the borders.
With the note that those who'd sworn to assist you escorted you to the border and encouraged you to wage war against your enemies, but then they turned away and left you standing there to face your foes alone.
Here he has your allies have forced you to the borders. Those with whom you had made peace have deceived you. Right? So here that's more like a sense of betrayal. Right? All these people you thought were your friends were in fact now have deceived you. I also think, and this might just be coincidence, I don't know, but it's interesting that Shilchacha, we here JPS says turned you back, you had escorted, and he translates it as forced you there, which I think points to um the different ways you can understand the same action, right? Is it disingenuous? Is it like forced, explicitly forced, or is it, escorted you, but to escort someone in a forceful way? It's interesting because this is the Haftorah for Parshat Vayishlach, right? Where Yaakov sends messengers ahead to Esav, and then that's when they have that reunion. And so, it's just kind of interesting here that that same word, Shalchachucha, is used to represent this like plurality of meaning. Okay, so and it's interesting that we're focusing the beginning part just on God's going to find you anywhere, right? God's going to make sure you are completely destroyed, but we're not just going to leave this as between you and God. We're also going to talk about how all of your friends have abandoned you as well. And everyone, like all the people you thought were your friends, actually now have abandoned you. And you just wonder, is that intentionally there to echo some of that relationship between Yaakov and Esav, of the hidden, of the, of the, are we friends? Are we enemies? The stealing behind, all the trickery and all of that, you wonder if any of that is intended to emphasize part of that. All right. Yeah.
Rashi just adds a note about the bread, who ate your bread, and refers back to your brother Jacob made even your food for you a source of injury, for he gave you bread and a pottage of lentils, and you thereby came to despise your birthright.
Beautiful. Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Right. And yeah, that's interesting. Yasimu mazor tachtecha. Right. They're very nice. Yeah. Hmm.
I can feel that wasn't that.
And Ovadia himself was a Edomite convert, right?
Well, it depends how who you say Ovadia was. Right. Yes. That one of the interpretations is that he's an Idumean, right? Who are those Edomites who ended up in Israel. But it's not the only one.
Which means that first of all, he wasn't a Amalekite, and second of all, that he waited 3 months until, sorry, 3 generations, until he was accepted as a convert. So,
Hmm.
um,
Yeah.
yeah, I think that, in my opinion, is that that's important for why he's the one prophesying against Edom, because he was one of them, or his family was one of them, and Doega Adomi, one of the arch nemesis of David, was also Edomite convert, and so Ovadia is basically, according to this explanation, fixing it.
Mm. Mm. Mm-hmm.
That they can be good as long as they're not Amalekites, because Amalek was we are recorded, so BASBARD of Edom, right? So
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
anyway,
Yeah.
sorry.
Um, yeah. Okay. So we go even one step further in the next pasuk. Halo bayom hahu neum Hashem b'ha'avadati chachamim Edom utvuna mehar Esav. So in that day declares God, I will make the wise vanish from Edom, understanding from Esav's mount. Ugh. Utvuna, this is the same word used in the previous pasuk, understanding, from, yeah, Haresav, right? So this is interesting. I would love if someone has a good footnote for this on why we care about wisdom, especially because those are the attributes that people often say Yaakov had, right? The desire to learn, each time Yoshev Alim, that he learned all day, right? And so are we even associating Chachma and Bina with Esav in the first place? And what's the significance of God taking that away? Does anyone have anything good on that? All right. He doesn't say anything. Um, he does point out that, a lot of this is the punishment that we are saying that God is going to inflict on Esav or Edom is what Edom did to the Israelites in the first place, right? To warrant this prophecy that masqueraded as friends, right? That, again, it depends on the history you want to follow. One theory is that Edom and Israel had a pact, right? That they would come defend each other. And Edom just flagrantly violated it once another army came through and attacked, and to the point where they would like march into Jerusalem and just plunder along with everyone else, so that there's this really like very core sense of betrayal. And now that we're saying to them, just like you betrayed us, God's going to betray you, and you'll be as isolated as we feel right now. But it is interesting that we're kind of blaming Edom for our own pain in a way.
So I've got a comment about
Hmm.
wisdom,
Yeah.
in that when Yitzchak blessed Esav and gave him the blessing that you're going to live by your sword, it was the opposite of a blessing that said anything about wisdom. So that was kind of their destiny to live by their sword.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
An explanation for why
Mm-hmm.
about the wisdom that the wise banished from Edom.
Interesting. Very interesting. Huh. Okay. Oh boy. Okay. Here's this last thing. 9. Vechatu giborecha teman lema'an yikarei ish mehar Esav mikatel. Your warriors shall lose heart, O Teman, and no one on Esav's mount shall survive the slaughter. All right. So you'll lose your wise leaders in 8, and now your warriors are going to freeze or whatever, and everyone's going to die. How lovely. So lots and lots and lots of destruction. Excuse me. Okay, we'll go for 5 more minutes. Now, here we see some blame more directly. Mechamas achicha Yaakov techascha busha v'nichratata le'olam. For the outrage to your brother Jacob, disgrace shall engulf you, and you shall perish forever. First of all,
So,
just yeah,
yeah, my translation of Hamas is violence, which is
yes. Okay,
what
great.
that's, of course, nowadays, of course, that's what it
I know, I
means.
know. I could you believe that? Yeah. Oh, so you have violence. So I think that makes more sense than outrage. Do you have I mean, the reason I'm struggling is because the Hebrew it's like so simple. Chamas achicha Yaakov. Um Techascha busha v'nichratata le'olam. Right? These are three like two-worded phrases, and yet here, anytime we translate Hebrew to English, it's gonna be longer, right? But it feels like a translation should kind of reflect that simplicity. What do you have for the
Yeah,
rest of that?
I have that shame shall cover you, which
Okay,
right? So that
right,
makes
yeah,
covering, and you'll be cut off forever. Yeah,
yeah,
it's literal.
yes, exactly. You'll be cut off forever. Yes, perfect.
I
Um,
have oppression instead of outrage.
oh, interesting. Oppression. Hamas v'timalei haaretz Hamas. I mean, it's
The sixth parsha.
right, right. There you go. Right, yeah. That's yeah.
So, just like there's Shivim Panim Torah, 70 faces of
Mhm.
Torah, and there's probably 70 translations in other languages, but the one that I was always brought up on is, I think, uh, either Rashi's or the Talmud, which is, will make you an offer you can't refuse. We want your car, we're going to give you $5,000 for it. Uh, take it or leave it.
Hmm.
Leave it means we're going to take it anyway. And yeah, so the deal between Yaakov and Esav was supposed to be permanent and real,
Hmm.
and it seems like from everything I learned from our history, we accepted it, but they never did. So um, they the royal they, because it's not about one religion or another. They're upset that we got that deal, and they're not willing to accept that's
Hmm.
what we got.
Hmm. 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 Yeah. Yeah. And it also connects back to like, Esav's like impulsivity in his behavior and saying, well, I'm about to die. Of course, he's not about to die. He went out hunting. He's not starving to death, right? But his inability to see past the next 10 minutes in front of him and that haunting him the rest of his life, right? And exactly what you're saying, because you can't undo that. Uh, yeah. So this is very, I mean, to accuse him of Hamas here, it's in That's a very intense accusation. I mean, as you know, Hamas is, as we said from this week's parsha, that Timalei Haaretz Hamas, and that the land was filled with Hamas, and that's what leads God to destroy it. So, to call what Yaakov did an act of Hamas is, we could debate if that's even fair, right? It seems like maybe not the most accurate word, but also is that fair? And I'm the first person to criticize Yaakov. I really don't care for him in many ways as a character, and I resent that we don't blame him enough for what he did. But that said, like Hamas, really? I mean, that's bad. Why don't we accuse him of trickery?
But Ruth, isn't this the outrage to your brother Yaakov from
Yes, yes, yes. Sorry. Yes, thank you. You're pointing out my thought was incomplete. So therefore, right, is Esav,
Oh, it depends. Hamas achicha
wait, what
Yaakov.
is
It sounds like it's the violence of your brother Jacob. I mean,
Well, the way Ibn Ezra translated, he refers to the impression inflicted by the Edomites upon the Jewish nation at the time of their exile at the hands of Nebuchadnezzar.
yeah.
So Radak contends it refers to the Roman nation descended primarily from Edomites who destroyed the second Beit HaMikdash.
right. Titus
And
says we were mainly.
Abarbanel also. So
Yeah, that's I didn't
No,
even
I
mention this.
understand that that's the interpretation, but I guess what I'm asking is what's the literal, is there a way of discerning what the
Yeah.
literal translation is and who the Hamas refers to? Which brother? Is it of Yaakov or is it to Yaakov? And I can't tell from the language because
Right. No, that's a good point.
but all the commentators all interpret it that it's to Yaakov.
Right, yeah, no, you're right. I don't know. That's funny. My brain, right. No, you're right. Everyone understands it like that.
what does Targum say? Anyone who's good with their Aramaic?
Right. Here he doesn't even acknowledge that anyone would see it otherwise. But okay, so yeah, either way though, I do think it is Edom didn't cause this, excuse me. Um Edom did not wage war on Israel at any point, right? They were sneaky and obnoxious, but it's why exactly that is the accusation with such a strong accusation, right? As here he says, very few words carry a stronger connotation than the word Hamas. Why is that what Edom is accused of? I hope next week I remember to bring back my book. I miss it with the better commentary on this. But yeah, I don't. That's still troubling here. Um,
I mean,
right.
yes, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Esav threatened violence, at least to himself he did.
Right. But
And I don't recall anything with Yaakov threatening violence. It just wasn't in his nature.
right.
Even
Right.
if you look at what happened in Shechem, right? I mean, he wasn't the one who caused that violence upon the people in that city, even though they, violated his daughter. So
Right.
he didn't seem like the kind of guy that would be prone to violence.
No, not at all. Not at all. Right. But depending again, different ways of interpreting what Edom did here, those also weren't acts of Hamas, of violence, right? They're obnoxious, they're betrayal. They're not nice, but they're not Hamas. I mean, accuse Assyria of Hamas. I mean, Assyria was horrific. This is not that. So yeah, I don't. There's a lot more we could explore here about that usage of the word. Um,
And maybe that's why they were translating it here as outrage to soften it.
yeah, yeah. I'm gonna go back in here and read it again and see if I missed anything because he's
Okay.
not explaining it well enough. But there's got to be more here. It's so strong. Yeah. Okay, I'm sorry. Unfortunately, I have to stop. I have to run to class. But this was lovely. Let's continue to poke around with Ovadia this week, and next week we will finish the book.
Thank you
Have
very
a
much,
great week,
Ruth.
everyone.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Ruth.
Cora.
Thanks.
Thank
Bye.
you.
We're
Bye.
thinking of you,
Bye.
Janet.
Yes,
Bye,
thank you,
Janet.
Janet.